Happy Halloween, everybody. How are you doing, King Richard?
King Richard loves Halloween, and welcome everybody to our Halloween episode. You know, I just got to thinking about it. This is episode 31, and Halloween is on October 31st.
That is interesting.
Quite a coincidence, huh?
Quite a coincidence.
So I see you're, I guess, some sort of creepy, like Frankenstein kind of doctor in your laboratory with the lightning going off. And
that's right. Yes, you know, I've gone dark professor here, and
I love it.
And we have my friend Poe has decided to join us.
Ah, there he is. Hello, Poe.
Poe is a little raven here, and he's very happy to be on the show for the first time. Poe is very anxious today because we're going to talk about some scary things in old CAD systems, you know, creaky old CAD systems. You know, we're going to talk about that, but we're also bringing in some folks from the world of Onshape where it's not as scary. It's much easier to get your job done. So we have a panel of really scary good guests joining us here today.
Yes, we do. And if our listeners will remember, we came out with a little Halloween challenge some time ago. And we asked our Onshape users to create some spooky models or a spooky feature script or even some spooky assemblies. And we had a couple of folks that like that, exactly.
Or like this.
Or like that.
Okay.
Or even, and let me get that ready while I am still talking here. Because I took a shot at it myself. Now, I'll have to admit that I am certainly not the best Onshape user in the world. I'm getting there, and I certainly hope that people won't laugh at this too much. But let me go ahead and figure out how to do this. My goodness, Richard, you're blowing it here. Let me share my screen real quick. And there we go. Let's see if that works. So this is my entry into the Halloween channel or challenge.
Oh, this is pretty creepy.
Yep, this is my bowl of eyeballs. I do have some great plans for this eventually. You can see that I've done the modeling, and I threw an assembly together real quick. But I do have some big plans for this, and one of those involves certainly rendering this at some point. And it was really nice because Nacho gave me a really interesting way to help when I'm preparing a rendering. Now, given that this isn't any kind of a production model or anything, and it's just for fun, he showed me a couple of tricks that'll make it a lot easier. So one of the things that certainly I'll have to render is going to be these veins. And what Nacho showed me was actually to create a kind of a dummy part here. And then we Boolean together the item that was circular patterned around. So that way when I go into the render, all I have to do is select one object and I can apply my appearance and then I can move on to the next. He did the same thing for me here. You can see just that little piece of, I'll call it construction geometry that pulled together all of those. So I learned quite a few things. I learned projected curve using this. So it was a lot of fun to do, and I certainly hope that by next Halloween, I'll have a nice rendering of it and figure out some way to make these eyeballs shimmy.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see it.
That was my try at the challenge. Hopefully people appreciate at least the effort I put into it.
Yeah, Poe does. Poe likes it a lot, and Poe says you have a great eye for detail.
Ah, excellent. Thank you. Yeah. I also just real quick like to talk about Halloween for a minute because I love this holiday, and particularly I think when my kids were younger, you know, as a family we really got into Halloween, and I will let me just show you one more thing here to try and I had this all prepared and ready to go. There we go. And there we go. So this is a picture from Halloween 2004. These are my two children. At the time, they were 4 years old and 10 years old. Typically, the time where they dress up as things like Transformers or something cute and friendly. But no, my boys, they really liked the macabre, and I think that probably came from their mother. Because what you can't see in this picture here is her behind me on the lawn laying out the fake body parts and the tombstones, the cobwebbing all over the tree, and then the fog machine that's set to go off as soon as people start coming trick-or-treating. So we really put a lot of effort into Halloween. My boys really appreciated it. The youngest boy insisted every year that he wanted a scary mask. But you know what? By about the third house, he was ready to get out of that thing, and he was just panting and wheezing, and the mask came off for the rest of the time. So we always had a great time at Halloween. I still love the holiday. Haven't done a lot, as far as getting dressed up until today. I feel really festive today as King Richard, and I'm just glad to be here. So those are my Halloween thoughts.
Awesome. Well, you know what we should do? Let's bring in some of our scary CAD users. We have.
I'll tell you what. Let's bring them all in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh well.
So, let's bring back our friend. What position are you today, Bryan?
I'll be quarterback.
You'll be quarterbacking. Okay.
Omaha.
That's awesome. We also have our friend. Well, who is this person? I recognize Michael Pascoe's name, but
the face doesn't look familiar, does it?
He's got the best.
I've been growing this beard out for weeks now. You guys don't recognize me. Well, this is part of my costume. So it took a while to grow, but I think it's paying off. So you can hide microphones under it too. See,
that's
the beard mic.
That's great.
But just so you know, it's me. Here you go.
There we go.
Hey, welcome. So Bryan, you're from what company? Tell us again.
Mezco Fabrication.
Okay, and Michael.
CADSharp.
CADSharp. And then we also have one more guest, new to the show. Seth Fickett. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, and welcome everybody.
Welcome everybody. It's so awesome to see everybody here in a festive mood. Let me get the layout here better. That's better. So everybody took the opportunity, right, Richard, to create some Halloween fun.
Yep.
It would be awesome to share some of this stuff and also talk about some scary CAD stuff peppered in to the conversation here. This is going to be a very free flowing show today.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, we do have free flowing shows, but this one's going to be very free flowing.
And I can see that Seth has his model queued up already. So why don't we go to Seth first? In fact, this was the forum post that mentioned the challenge. I think this was the first response that came back, and Seth was wondering if models created a long time ago counted. And we said absolutely, and especially when I took a look at this model. So, Seth, why don't you tell us what this is and tell us the story behind it?
Sure. So this is a mask to look like a character from a video game called Hollow Knight. It's a video game that my now 4-year-old son enjoyed watching me play from time to time, and he hadn't really had a plan for Halloween, and neither had I. And then the day before trick-or-treating, I thought, well, if I do this just right, I could print off a mask for him just in time. So I whipped up this model. You can see that I used some last minute move faces to get things right, and it's not a clean model, but it did the trick. We were able to get it printed off. I've got the real deal mask here with me.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, let me hide the screen here for a second so everybody can see, and I'll you in the spotlight.
What did you print that on, Seth?
It was done on a snap maker. Me and a friend both have a snap maker, and actually he had his set up for printing, so he did it for me. But so it took about 10 hours. We had about one shot, and it came out okay, so we went with it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic. I mean, it looks like
yeah,
a production piece. Yeah.
The white that he happened to have turned out really nice with the looking kind of bone-esque, which works for the aesthetics of the game. And I don't know if I had completely thought through just how perfect a costume it was for a toddler, but the proportions of a toddler are just right for this character. It's just like, because the character has the short little arms and a big old head, so it works out great for a toddler costume. So
that's awesome. That is awesome.
That's awesome.
Very, very fun.
Sweet. Well, that's awesome. That's so 10 hours to make that print, did you say?
Yeah, about 10 hours.
Not bad, actually. Not bad, really. I mean, if you think about it, if you were to go out and injection mold or thermoform that thing or whatever.
No, that would not have happened in the whatever it was, 15 hours that I had to do it.
Yeah. It looks really impressive. Yeah,
it does. And you mentioned that your model wasn't the cleanest model, but we're looking at that thinking that you did that with fewer features than a lot of folks would have. It's a nice clean model. I like it.
Nothing wrong with a little face.
Yep. Use all the tools at our disposal. That's right.
I'm looking at it today. I was like, well, that could have just been one little edit, but had to keep moving.
Got to keep moving. Got to get it. So Michael, you had some stuff too that you were able to whip up, and we saw a little preview of some stuff on the forums, but I don't know if that's what we're going to be showing here today.
Sure, I'll share my screen. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect.
Great.
Michael, for the viewers here, Michael's running without power right now on a live stream here, which is incredible. He's figured out how to defy
electricity. He just bypassed electricity altogether.
Yes, well, the Lord allowed me to get it working. The power just randomly went out, and so I turned on a hotspot, and I have the video going through my phone to my computer through a filter, then through a web browser. So hopefully
then through StreamYard and eventually out to YouTube. That's quite a journey.
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Great.
Thank you guys for having us on here. This is great. So,
and what does CADSharp do, Michael? Just for the viewers.
CADSharp, we automate processes specifically involving Onshape. So let's say you've got a part and you need to run draft analysis on it, but you don't ever want to open Onshape. Recently, I made a custom feature that the client never even has to open or touch. So we used API to connect with their marketing software. And so the marketing guy just clicks a button. It automatically goes to the part that he selected and runs that draft analysis feature, and then reports back with API to the marketing software, and it tells him how much it's going to cost. So things like that.
That is scary good. I mean, really, that solves a lot of problems. But that's an example of what CADSharp is capable of doing. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
Let's put your thing up here on the screen.
Okay. Well, so this is just a fun little feature. I call it Spookify. So I took this pre-made, I made it, but I pre-made it here. So it's just a model of a pumpkin, jack-o'-lantern. And notice how I only put edges where I wanted it to look like there were edges, kind of like a real pumpkin. So there's not a bunch of fillet marks everywhere, and you can look at this without even rendering it, and it looks pretty decent. Even this has no seams on it except for like the top and where it meets the pumpkin. But so that is a pre-made part, and then this ghost is also a pre-made part. And so these I've been brought into a where is it? I brought it into like a sample studio, and then the feature script takes that sample studio and it generates it wherever you want. So the feature measures your part that you click, actually your whole studio, and then depending on how big your studio is, it will adjust the size of this scene to fit your model.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It works great with VR or AR. You probably saw it on the forums. But
I was thinking of rendering first, but AR, VR. I mean, this is a great use too.
Yeah. Well, while I'm here, I'll go ahead and show it. So let's see. It's free on the forums. So Spookify. So it automatically grabs your model and stuff. The only reason I have this checkbox here is to let you know, hey, go turn perspective mode on so this will work a little better.
Yeah.
So I'll turn perspective on. Now it kind of has that more realistic feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell it to Spookify. And it generates all these parts around your model, kind of like it's scaring it.
This is very Tim Burton looking.
Yeah.
So with the AR, it's really cool. Let's see. Where's this Halloween costume challenge?
I think it's in the What's New post.
What's new?
No, it's in general.
Oh, it's in general?
Yep.
Okay, here's general. Oh, there's one of them. Here it is. Wait, no.
Nope.
There it is.
A lot of forum activity to sift through.
So here's that render.
Yeah, it looks good in rendering, that's for sure.
Yep.
Nice one there.
And here's this AR. I'll zoom in a little bit. Oops. There we go. Okay, so yeah, in the AR, man, this Onshape AR works very well. I'm super pleased with it. But
yeah, that's amazing how, I can't wait to try out something like this. I ran out of time today to come up with a little VR AR Halloween thing, but this takes the cake right here. I love this.
Surprisingly, this little disc I drew in the studio was the same size as my stool, so I didn't even plan for that. I was just like, so it popped right on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but so that's what I had. The render studio is just, it keeps getting better and better. So
yeah, that's really nice.
But
yeah, it's becoming much easier to use the product as the releases come out. You know, they keep moving forward with it. So it's really nice to see a nice rendering like that. Nice texture on that pumpkin. Awesome. Yep. Thanks for sharing, Michael.
Yep, really nice.
Sure thing.
Michael.
No problem.
Yeah. We should probably have Bryan show his stuff off here.
Cool.
Bryan, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
All right.
Now,
There it is.
you actually have that thing in the background.
Yeah.
With you right now. Actually, let me put you in focus here.
In the background.
Let's see.
There we go.
I have it displayed. And it's kind of over here. We needed something for the lobby. And one of the guys, actually our laser operator, he's been doing these lanterns. In fact, shadow casting. And so I've been working with him on some designs, and, it just hit me. I saw the post on the forum from Rich. I said, you know what? I could take a lantern and add some Halloween theme to it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did here.
I'm going to put it back up here.
There it is. So it is aluminum. We are at Mezco. We are a job shop, metal job shop, with 2D cutters, mills lathes, full fabrication, and soon to have powder coating capabilities. So what I also want to do with this, since Onshape, you can, in the document, you can have more than just the Onshape document. So I took some photos of it going through different manufacturing processes. So starting off with the design here, and this is, of course, the assembly with everything, and I'll just switch it over to the parts studio real quick. It's done in sheet metal, Onshape, but it's, take a different approach. I started with a full solid of the shape. Instead of trying in old CAD, I guess I could say, or in desktop CAD, I used to try to make the shape in sheet metal and then start using cuts and everything. But with the Onshape and the parts studio, you can make that shape and then convert it to whatever thickness you have in the template. And that's kind of what I did here. And it gives you some nice, nice seams to weld and everything, real nice and tight. The other thing is, of course, on the flat pattern. Let me turn it to the actual lamp parts. You don't have to project these images, these sketches. So you don't have to like work in the 3D. If you have a 2D sketch or anything, you can go straight onto the flat pattern. Let's see if I can just call it that with the tree, the house.
So you sketch directly in the flat pattern window there in the corner. That's what happened. Yeah. And of course, you probably imported some geometry here, I would imagine.
I did some images on some. I had the image off to the side and just kind of freeform, mimicking on the sketches.
Yeah.
But like right here for the, the cat and everything.
I was just going to say, I'm really impressed with the cat. That's cool.
And the pumpkin face. I'll say I had trouble with the tree, so this was a trace that I kind of modified, and a little bit with the cat. But the pumpkin, the house, the graveyard, and everything, I kind of just did that by looking.
And that's just with regular Onshape sketching? You can do this? I never would have thought that this could be possible with like
it takes a while.
And a lot of patience, I would imagine.
A lot. I had some time. This was just like a on the side project I would do at home. And so I'd sketch some arcs or use a spline and just kind of look and just place it and everything. And I mean, working in the industry for a while, kind of know what the tabbing, what I was looking for, and kind of know what, spacing I need to make sure it holds, because it's in a flat right here, but I have to roll it to shape. So if you don't have the correct tabbing and everything, it'll pop, it won't roll. Luckily, I have over here a small hand slip roller that I was able to take it. So in the folders right here, I made a folder called manufacturing picks, so I could kind of just show, like, this was straight off the laser cut the flat. And then this, of course, is after I rolled it in the slip roller and bent it, and also pressed some pimp studs. And then we have some of the best TIG welders, because I tell you, welding thin aluminum TIG, you'll get a lot of fabricators that will be like, oh God. But we have some of the best, and my God, he just took this and was going to town with it. And then, of course, we smoothed the welds out, and then I painted it flat black. And then, of course, I did also some renders. And the render studio gave me, like, the ability to look at it, like, how will the lights, how will it see? I mean, it's pretty close to what we have, because I picked, like, an amber color type light, and we got some amber color LEDs on there, and, just to get it. And then, of course, I had some final production pics of it. And like I said, it was
it's pretty close. Yeah.
You get it to the actual, and I think it was like over here when I got into the dark. And try different colors, green. Yeah, you see in the dark, it actually had that orange color, just kind of like the render. It was like almost matching. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty sweet.
But yeah, that's kind of what I had, and I just wanted to take through the document, take it through the different little processes that we did over here, as far as the design, the cutting, making all the files, and of course the drawings. I even have a file here called cut files. That's where I made the individual DXFs, but manufacturing drawings of the BOM, where I wanted welding, kind of the general overall size. Even in the drawing put like, okay, here's the orientation, if you want to place it. And then the individual different cut size. And then of course I did make a little template. So as I rolled it, I put each part to make sure it followed that curve that I wanted. And then of course created in the cut files folder, the individual DXF files that we sent to the laser cutter and cut it.
This is a really good demonstration here, Brian, that showing the whole process here from going from your design to testing the rendering to actually creating it. You're showing us the DXF output of the flat patterns right there inside of Onshape. A lot of people don't realize that that's a possibility. You can just store the DXF file right in the document. You have it there ready to, under version control now. So that way, when you send it to the laser or whatever, you have it.
And like I said, that was one of the things, not only to make something Halloween themed, but I thought it'd be a great opportunity to show how you can do a whole manufacturing process.
All in one document. It's just amazing. And I know I know all of us here know that about Onshape, but it's something that people should understand. You don't have files all over the place. You don't have files in your hard drive. You don't have files in your PDM server. They're all right here, and he's included his drawings and renderings and pictures. I mean, it's a complete package in one document, and that's just amazing. Brian, that's an awful lot of work for something that you needed for the lobby.
Sometimes they say I go a little too far. I find it's fun, especially projects like this, where I'm not really constrained to I deal with customer work all the time, so they set the constraints like follow this, and this. And sometimes I just want to make something for myself, or for the shop and everything, just pretend I'm the customer.
You're preaching to the choir here, because I'm not designing my tiny house in Onshape for money. You're right, it's for fun.
Right. So really, and at home I just get, like, when I'm working on projects like this, sometimes I get caught up and don't see how the time's flying. And
my son didn't give me a dime for this.
My wife's hollering, supper's getting cold.
Gosh, you didn't even get like a world's greatest dad mug or something?
Well, he thought it was very cool. He gave me lots of appreciation, which was all I needed.
That's even better than a dime.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, that was some great examples of some great work there. That's just awesome, and every single one of those beats my bowl of eyeballs by 100 miles. So, good work, guys, and I hope someday that I'll be that same skill level with Onshape that some of you folks are. So,
all right, so I have some other kind of scary stuff that I'd like to share with you. We we'll have a little fun with Onshape versus maybe some of the older, creakier CAD systems that are out there. So let's just have a little fun. It's Halloween time. There are things that are far more frightening than the latest Halloween monster movie. In fact, before we all go, we all have to share what the last scary movie we watched was. But one nothing. All right, let's talk about crashes, right? Every one of us has experienced a crash in a CAD system at some point in our lives, I am sure, right?
Yes.
Nothing makes you wish more for decapitation than losing your work to a computer crash, right? Yeah. I mean, it's totally possible for developers to test every possible combination of hardware and software out there. Actually, it's not possible, right? And that's why the problems are really inevitable, right? It's you can't test be software developers, good as they may be, they can't test for the trillions of configurations of drivers and graphics cards and OS and antivirus and all that. So crashes, they happen. They don't only make you lose your work, but it totally makes you go nuts. And you might, if you had a sharp object laying around, you never know what could happen.
It's a gut punch, and the funny thing about it, and I have a lot of experience in this area. You can almost feel when it's coming, right?
Yeah.
You get that little glitch on the screen, and you take your hand off the mouse and kind of sit back, and boom, there it goes.
And you had definitely
you just can't stop it.
You had definitely for the last 10 minutes been telling yourself, "Oh, I should save really soon."
I really should. But
Michael's power goes out.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't save.
I know.
And see, because Michael had to go because he finally did run out of power. But you know what? The very last command that he did in Onshape before that power went out got saved automatically. So, and that's the beauty of Onshape.
Another scary thing are insufferable installs, right? It's really not uncommon for project managers to wait forever, right, to give new engineers access to CAD. I've heard weeks, months, and in some cases at some companies it's not good. But there's a lot of steps involved when you hire a new person. You have to contact your reseller. You got to get a license. You got to get the quote approved. Then the IT department at your company needs to provision a computer and dedicate installation time, right? So this kind of stuff is just wasted time. A really scary statistic that I think I haven't had the nerve to come up with for myself, but like how much time in my life have I spent installing CAD software in my previous life before Onshape? That would be the scariest thing. I mean, it would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours that I could have been doing something much better.
Yep. and I didn't have the same kind of role that you had back in my CAD days, but I was the administrator for just about every job that I worked at, and so I was responsible for that software installation. And I used to have to come in at night and do it overnight and make sure that everybody was ready and everybody was up and running the next day. Just got to be a hassle, like you said.
Yeah. Another hassle that everybody deals with in the world of installed CAD software. It's not just the popular ones, but the sinister software version mismatch issue is really quite evil. It's one of the biggest villains in all of the horror CAD scene. Is you can't even share with each other if you're on 2021 and somebody else is on 2019. No. You're not getting your information through. Then you're going to have to export it as a step file or something, and it's not going to be able to work with one another. And then more files beget more files. You get a step file, somebody else is going to send another copy of a step file back. Then you're dealing with all that. And I don't need to get into this. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies right now. It
goes back to the installations as well, and that's why a lot of folks hold off on installing the latest versions, because they've got customers, they've got suppliers that aren't making that change, and and the poor designers and engineers, they're seeing all of these great new features, or features that might be something that they've been waiting for a long time, and they can't get their hands on it because of the installation and the non-compatibility between versions.
Yeah.
Mike, your comment reminded me of of the nightmare of emails with updated CAD files and the new updated CAD files, and then the all caps new updated CAD files. Oh no, you couldn't count on them being up to date.
Yep, you're totally right. I mean, as soon as you hit file save, it's out of date. I mean, if we really think about it, I mean, even if you have local control of your own files, it's out of date. Yep. And with Onshape, of course, it's always, you're working on the latest and greatest at all times.
The worst I had was a license file issue. I had we were updating on another software, and to generate the license, we had a set number the computers that have the license. Each license, we have our own number.
The IP address or whatever. Yeah, the MAC
And I typed in a 6 instead of a 9, generated the license, couldn't load it. And it took about 2 weeks for that to get resolved.
Yeah.
And I had one shot. I couldn't go like, oh, wait, I forgot, let me go back. No, it's generated.
Yep. It's done. It's in the system. Now you had to wait. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Sorry you had to go through that with the old CAD system, the old creaky FlexLM license server-based system. It's kind of crazy. So, very scary learning about how to manage those license management systems. I spent a lot of time on that. One more I'll share is the, it's the only time of year we're Onshape blog editors. They let us use horrific puns. They let us do shows like this. They let us have a little bit of fun. So let's take advantage of this, right? If you recall the Edgar Allan Poe classic, The Pit in the Pendulum, you will remember the seemingly doomed narrator is tied down with a swinging pendulum-mounted blade about to slice him into pieces. So instead of calling it the pit in the pendulum, we're going to call it the pit in the PDMulum. That's probably the worst pun in the history of puns. But we're stretching here. It's a little yoga. You remember that that doomed narrator about to slice into pieces. He was scared because he was scared of PDM. Everybody knows the horrors of PDM. Checking in, checking out. What happens if you forget to check in and you go on vacation and nobody else can get to your CAD file because it's on your computer? It's just a nightmare. PDM systems. I'm actually PDM systems I'm reading a blog here, right? This is a blog that we released last year, and it says PDM systems don't actually inflict harm, right? But I don't know. PDM systems kind of gave me a headache, and I there were times I wanted to punch people. I punched my computer. It's been I think they could cause physical harm, definitely psychological torture. That's
definitely.
Sure. Yep. But there's a lot of fun things that I have in my life now. My life is much better that I've gone to Onshape. Really, it is, because I don't have to think about managing the files. I don't have to think about license files. All of these things that you had to worry about are not worries anymore, and you can have a lot more fun in your life. And it's really true.
Make Halloween models.
That's right. You were able to make a beautiful Halloween model. Seth was able to make a nice mask really quickly, 10 hours. I mean, amazing.
So let me bring up one more scary thing, and that is the loathsome learning curves. And I don't mean to imply that other CAD systems are hard to learn necessarily. I think what I'm saying here is that with the Learning Center at Onshape, it's just so much easier to do that self-paced learning. I've been trained on a couple of different CAD systems by live instructors, and while the instruction was good, and when I got out of the class, I was able to, start to be productive. But I do remember having some trepidation at first, wondering what did I learn about that in class. There was no way to go back. And with the Learning Center that Onshape has, that was the beauty for me, is that not only was I able to go through all of the self-paced courses, but, as I went and started using Onshape, started working on the tiny house, there were occasions where I would forget something or I would need to know something more. And the ability to go back to the Learning Center, go back to the specific video or the specific section on those self-paced courses to find exactly what I was looking for, that was invaluable for me. It really helped me get up to speed, at least to the point where, I could do what I needed to do in Onshape without any worries. So the Learning Center is huge.
I agree. It's so nice to be able to just have all your learning there. A nice thing about it too is that it keeps track of your progress.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see how far along you are in your learning and pick right up where you left off. So
Yep, and it only took me 3 seconds when I got my certificate to post that up on LinkedIn to let everybody know that I was certified in Onshape.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, I think it was a great show today. What do you think, Richard?
I think so too. We saw some incredible models. We had some great guests with us. I'm almost glad, that we're nearing the end because I've got to get out of this costume. I am just burning up in this thing. I think between the tunic and the overcoat, it was maybe a little much for my apartment. That's hovering around 78 degrees, and I feel like I'm at 120 inside this thing. So, I'm always disappointed when we get to the end of an episode. I'm a little less disappointed this time, but just so happy that we had everybody on. Seth and Bryan. Michael's power finally gave out on him, but he was great to have on here. And the models and the feature scripts and the AR stuff was just fantastic. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah.